3-year vision is that Alan has become so incredibly busy, but we love him dearly and don't want to lose him. So what would it take? So Alan is conducting part-time, and Brad Ellingbo will conduct the other half of the program this year. So that's year 1. We have a 3-year plan. The second year, Alan will conduct as well, and Janiyah Robeson, who is another up-and-coming conductor, she will be with us next year. So we're looking forward to that as well. And the 3rd year will be David Dickow, and that is Alan's brother-in-law, for those of you who don't know that. And David just recently retired from Mankato State, which I laughingly told my sister this a short time ago, because she went to Mankato State.
All right.
Oh, goodness. So it is a very small world when it comes right down to it. So the vision is the 3-year plan. After that, we don't know what's going to happen, but we're trying to build a future. And we welcome any and all comments. We welcome any and all volunteers. We welcome anything that you would like to tell us of how you see this group is moving forward. So right now, I would like to have the board members stand up so that you know who those people are who have taken under quite this extreme reorganization process. So, Michelle, stand up. And Mago is not able to be here today, so she is also on the board as well. So I would like you to know that Bob and Alan did this, putting together everything for the consort year themselves, just the 2 of them. Now, mind you, it has taken 6 of us to replace what Bob and Alan have done. So at this moment, I would really like to once again thank Bob and Alan both for everything that they both have done. Yes, we bow to you. Yes, very much so. This is a fundraising luncheon. Okay. So I just want I'm going to very, very quickly talk about fundraising. So you're here because you care about Consort. You're here because you love good music. You're here because you like the camaraderie that we get when we're talking with each other, when we're singing with each other, and when we're just having a plain old good time such as this. We want to continue that into the future, and we would like to lay a stable foundation for that. So I'm going to ask you, if you can, and if you would, to dig a little bit deeper to help us. There is multiple ways to try to donate to us. Over on the table by the reception area, there is a poster board that Lucy, thank you Lucy, wherever you are, made that it tells you all the different ways that you can do this. And I'm going to have Dave Rubb stand up one more time because he is our money man. So if you would like to donate, you can certainly drop a check in the box over there, or Dave has his square reader if you would like to charge on a charge card today.
You don't even have to pay the bill for a while.
Days and days.
So the different things that we're looking at, it is funding of our orchestra. We have how many orchestra members this year?
10.
9, is it?
Well, 9 plus a contractor. Yeah.
9 contracted players, and so we are paying them $300 a piece. And so we are asking if you can to donate, for instance, or an orchestra member, or part of an orchestra member. You and your neighbor next to you could decide, you know, you want to go in on it together? I'll do half, you do half. Okay, fine. So there's multiple ways of doing this. There's also other ways of giving as well, and that is as a tribute or in honor of. If you have someone that you would like to honor and you would like to donate in their name, or if you would like to donate, have their name and your name in the program in honor of, you can certainly do that as well. So if you would like to donate in the name of your parents who have nothing whatsoever to do with Consort, something along those lines, that would be fine. Or if there's someone in Consort that you would like to recognize and make a wonderful tribute to, that would be also a great thing to do. As life goes on, we have changes and we have passings of people that have been in our midst. And it's kind of coming around. It's hit me. Sorry, it's hit me a little bit because there are so many, as we get older, this is what happens. So this past year, we lost Michael Peterson. We have lost Elizabeth Zerlinden. We've lost Joan Hart's wife. We've lost David Hanchet's wife. And we've lost Suzanne Young. And I just found out yesterday we lost Jim Barry. And Patricia as well. So Jim had moved back to Chicago last fall, and he passed away just a couple of weeks ago. And for those of you who don't know him, he was our pianist at Consort for a long time. And he tickled the ivories like you cannot believe. Quite an accomplished jazz pianist. And I went to his farewell service up in Sonoma, and he's on a walker, needed help getting up 2 steps to get up to the piano. But once he sat down, you had no idea that he was the age that he was. And he took with him this little piece of paper, and he set it on the piano, and I sort of looked at it, and it was a bunch of scribbles, and some of it kind of went out a little bit. There was no musical notes on there. It was just little notes to himself. And it was absolutely incredible. I thought, oh my God, and he played for 10 minutes off of that thing. And I thought, wow, a musical genius like you can't believe. It was actually really incredible. And his mind was failing a little bit at that point, and there was a little bit of rambling of the keys, which I noticed, but I know no one else did. So it's very sad to lose these people in our lives. So we are one great big family, and so that is my pitch for today. And I hope that all of you can find it within your hearts to help us go forward, create the beautiful music that we do make, and keep going. So Lily is going to be interviewing our Sorry about that. So Lily, I just want to tell you a little bit about Lily because this is great. Lily O'Brien is a journalist who specializes in music and the performing arts. She currently writes for several publications, including the San Francisco Classical Voice, Downbeat Magazine, Marin Arts and Culture Magazine, and Jazz Times. And in just a second, I'm going to have Lily come up, and she's going to introduce both Alan and Brad and begin the rest of the festivities of the afternoon. But first, yesterday, Brad, you told a joke. Or two.
Just the one.
And you know, I just wanted you to know that I am a fellow Scandinavian as well. Oh yeah, I know. And so I have a little joke for you. I only know about 2 jokes that are actually jokes I could tell. But this is one of them. And this is an Oli and Sven joke.
Yeah.
Now, Oli and Sven, they be the kind of bachelor-galoops kind of guys, you know. So Oli was going on a trip, and he said, Sven, help me check my car, please. I want to know that it's working well. And Sven said, okay, Oli, I help you. And so Oli got behind the wheel of the car, and he said, look behind the car and see if the blinkers, if they be working right. And so Oli got behind the wheel, and Sven goes to the back of the car, and he stands there, and he says, okay, Oli, I'm ready. And so Oli turns on the blinker, and Sven goes, yeah, no, yeah, no. And on that note, and if I have a little bit more wine, I will certainly tell you some other ones. Thank you all very much. Lily, come on up. Brad and Alan, come on up.
it's better if Alan and I don't sit right next to each other.
I was gonna have them do that, but then we decided maybe it'd be better if we, have me in between. So that's what
I'm sorry, Lily. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very sorry.
Anyway, so what I decided to do is I'm just going to give you a little intro bio for each of them, and then go into the questioning, which I've kept somewhat serious, but we'll, who knows what's going to happen? Yeah, I'm going to let them entertain you. Oh, you can't hear me? Okay. So I'll just start with an intro bio for both of them, so for those of you who know or don't know. Okay, so Alan, I'm going to read these. Robert Allen Petker is a composer, arranger, educator, singer, and music publisher with more than 250 published works, including Choral Questions and Answers, a series of conducting books that have become staples in many school curriculums. His commissions have included original scores for live performances and a number of original TV commercials that have appeared on the CNBC network. Alan has been involved in the choral music publishing industry for many years. In 1977, he became the director of publications for the Fred Bach Publishing Group, which includes a distinguished group of music catalogs, and he is currently the vice president of publications. In 1989, he established his own company, Pavan Publishing, which is flourishing. Alan is currently the conductor of several chorales, including Concert Chorale, the Santa Clarita Master Chorale in Southern California, and Los Canciones Master Chorale based in Torrance, California. His chorales have performed at Carnegie Hall twice and have toured worldwide, including Europe, Russia, and Argentina. And he has guest conducted choirs in England, Korea, and France. He also frequently serves as a guest clinician or conductor for publishers, choral societies, church festivals, state honor choirs, and colleges. Since 1989, he has been a clinician in 2 summer church music conferences at Lake Tahoe, one for church choir singers, Summer Sing, and another for church choir directors, Tuning at Tahoe. He became the dean of these conferences in 2000. Sorry, I'm reading this. Alan holds a bachelor and a master's degree from California State University at Northridge in music, specializing in viola, voice, and choral conducting. As an instrumentalist, Alan has done freelance studio work and occasional concert playing. You may even catch him playing jazz violin and viola at a local pub where he lives, which is one of his favorite things to do. Alan is married to Kimberly Ayers, Kim, and they live in San Pedro and worship at the First Presbyterian Church, where Alan also directs the choir. Oh,
Was he adding something to that?
okay, he's not doing well.
Subtracting.
He promised me this was all up to date. Okay, never mind. Okay, never mind. Okay, this is true though. He has 2 grown children, Joshua, a rising LA visual artist, and Elise Petker, who works in publishing, and a recent addition to the Petker family, the first grandchild, Isabella. Ta-da! Everything you need to know about Alan.
You didn't do the other side.
That's for the, that's when you have a wife. Okay, Bradley, many of us do not know Bradley as well.
Can I go get a drink now?
Right. Yeah.
Hey man, I had to sit here for you.
I'm sorry, it was a little long. Yours is a little shorter, but we'll make up for it.
He hasn't done as much, he's younger.
Okay, all right, well, okay. Anyway, I know this is a little boring, but you want to know. Bradley Ellingbo is a choral conductor, soloist, composer, author, and teacher. As a choral conductor, he has led festival choruses in 35 states and 14 foreign countries, and has prepared choirs for a variety of luminaries, including Dave Brubeck, Moses Hogan, Alice Parker, Lauren Lauritsen, Renee Clausen, and Robert Ray. As a bass baritone soloist, he has sung under conductors, I can't read it, such conductors as Robert Shaw, Helmut Rilling, and Sir David Wilcox. A prolific composer, Brad has more than 140 pieces of music in print, including the Requiem for Chorus and Orchestra, which has been performed more than 300 times in this country and Europe.
In 1994, Brad was knighted by the King of Norway for his scholarly work in making the songs of Edvard Grieg more accessible to the English-speaking public. Brad spent 30 years on the faculty at the University of New Mexico as the Director of Choral Activities, Professor of Music, and Regents Lecturer, and also served at various times as Chairman of the Department of Music and Coordinator of Local Studies. He was named Faculty of the Year in 2008, and he retired from the university in 2015. In 2017, he became the Acquisitions Editor for National Music Publishing. Born in Lakeville, Minnesota, Brad is a graduate of St. Olaf College and the Eastman School of Music and has won annual awards for his choral compositions from the American Society of Composers, Arrangers, and Publishers since 2000. Brad currently lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where he leads 2 choruses, Choral Lux, a community choir, and the church choir at the United Church of Santa Fe. He also edits music for the church year for the Kios Music Company and just published a new book, A Practical Guide to Choral Conducting.
Ellen, you should look at that.
Yeah, I figured I'm just going to keep it straight. Because, okay. On Thursday, Brad celebrated his 38th wedding anniversary with his wife, Karen.
We'll get to meet her next month.
And they have 3 children, a son, Peter, who has 4 children, a married son, Alex, and a daughter, Kristen, who just got engaged last month. Via email, Brad told me that in his spare time, he says he likes to torment Alan. Okay, that's more than you ever wanted to know. Okay.
I'll say.
Yeah. Okay, so I was thinking, regarding the 2 of you, we want to know more about how you met. I was thinking it was kind of like when Alan met Bradley.
Yeah.
So you 2 met at the Summer Singing Conference at Zephyr Point as clinicians around 25 years ago. Tell us about that meeting and what attracted you to each other.
I'll take that.
So cute. The fun part was, this was, I want to say who Mel Olson is, and some of you may know that name, because Mel Olson was the one who founded these conferences up at Lake Tahoe. He's well known because he was the person that actually introduced John Rutter to the United States. His Gloria is dedicated to Mel, as are other anthems, and Mel and Harry both. Wonderful people, and Mel was so dedicated to the church musician. That's really where he wanted things to happen, and that's why he started these conferences, which were to enable opportunities for, as he called them, mountaintop experiences, which you get kind of in colleges sometimes. He wanted that to happen for church choir singers just over the weekend, and so these conferences started. And he developed a brain tumor, and as that came along, the thing was that he was able to, be, all of his faculties really worked, and he wanted the conference to continue. And so he did ask myself, and it was Kathy Rundis, who another person many of you know, if we would continue that conference. And it is, Kathy's no longer does the same role, I'll put it that way. But this is the 30th year, this year, of that conference that Mel started up at Lake Tahoe for Summer Sing. And the Directors Conference, which is the second one he started, this is the 20th year. So they have continued. So that's not to answer the question, I'm sorry, I got all carried away with Mel. But it's still important, because Mel is the guy that brought us together the first time we met, where we were both invited clinicians to be together, and we were very serious at that time.
What happened?
Well, yeah. Mel was a kind of a collector of young talent, and also included Alan in. No, but I think Alan and I both feel very beholden to Mel, and what a wonderful fellow he was, and started all of these things that still continue to this day. And yeah, I think we maybe met in 94, 95. There was a Presbyterian Association of Musicians. There used to be a meeting in Albuquerque for a while. It was at the university campus. and I went as, you know, a music professor, and also a church musician, Lutheran myself, but went and there was Mel, and I said, you know, the Rudder Gloria is dedicated to somebody named Mel Olson. And he goes, yeah, that's me. And then Mel invited me the next summer, I think, and we met, Alan and I met, and we were roommates for several years in the late 90s, and yeah, I'll tell you later about Alan and his love of ponies.
Oh, yeah.
Right, another whole story. But yeah, that's, gosh, 25 years ago, it goes by pretty fast. And,
Well, and I was in Albuquerque. So we met, did we meet in Albuquerque? Because I came to that conference in
yeah,
Albuquerque
you
with
were at
Andrew
the,
Carter was
right,
there.
Andrew Carter was there, and I think we did,
What's his,
Hal Hobson was there.
Well, I know how,
Okay.
who was the organist?
John Ferguson?
Yes, it was.
Right, Ferguson was
Yeah,
there.
that was it.
Right, and I did meet Alan there, but then we got to know each other at Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is sort of related, but two things. What has kept you, your relationship, you know, your friendship, or whatever you want to call it, going for so long? Why do you think you stayed together so long?
Lily wins, that's, yeah.
And what is maybe one of the most important things you have learned from one another? Who wants to take this one?
Oh, no. That was to start.
I'm gonna get a drink now. No, I got it, doesn't matter. What was the first question? The second one's kinda hard.
What has kept the relationship going for so many years? And then what's the most?
Wine.
Tell us about being attracted you to each other.
Right, you never
Yeah.
answered that.
Yeah,
but-
I'll go back to that one.
Okay.
No. In actuality, let's see. I think the truth is, I think there's a whole bunch of things that are similar between us that locked in right away because of we both do composing and arranging. We both involved in publishing. We're both conductors, and there's just a whole bunch of things. I'm not the singer, Brad is, and Brad, I will say, because I brought Brad in to sing Elijah with one of my chorales, and this guy is a phenomenal singer. It's not just, you know, to be a great singer is not just have a great voice. It's also how you communicate that. This guy, and I'll say this out loud in front of all these people, when he is singing to the folks, every person believes that he is singing to them. He communicates so strongly. Thank you. He's available for hire.
Weddings, bar mitzvahs.
So it has been the enjoyable. I think even the reason that we have so much fun even playing is I have such respect for what he does, and that's on all those levels. I've done so many of his compositions, and I love the way he writes, and it's his style. We've sat together sharing compositions before we could say, "Here's what I'm working on," and you know, to sit in the room and just share each other's creativity is it's just one of those, most people aren't interested in our creativity. Rarely does anyone want to sit down and, can I show you the new composition I'm writing? Most people, no. Don't want to see that. Yeah. So Brad became a friend because he said, oh, I'd love to see what that is, you know, and I enjoy that too. So, and we've just crossed paths so many times because of the different things we could do together. Whether it was clinicians or the opportunity for you to sing, you had me out to the university. So we get to do things, I think, which are sharing our craft that we both love so much. And I have to say another thing, I'm sorry this isn't very funny, but yesterday was an absolute delight. Yesterday was the first rehearsal for a concert, actually, to have another conductor as part of that experience. I must say, I had absolutely no doubts at all, and it wasn't even a concern. I knew that Brad would come in and people would love it. He has a different style of working, certainly than mine, but it's just so excellent. He absolutely got everything done. The day passed. You know a good clinician, when the day passes and you don't, and it's all over, and you're just shocked that the time has gone by, and then you realize how much you learned in that short amount of time. And that's what, you know, Brad achieves. He does that while he tells jokes, and he's got the Spananoli thing, and, you know, and he can do all
those things while at the same time you learn so much. And I do. I enjoy learning. I love singing. I got to sing and just listen. I will steal anything he says and share it as if it's my own.
Well, that's hard to follow.
Okay,
Now-
maybe we forgot to the question.
Yeah, really. In all sincerity, if you can you just reach over and cover Alan's ears for a minute? I really do prize Alan as a musician, and you know I'm used to good musicians. That's my life, and I think if you're an amateur musician, you go, oh my gosh, you can play piano or you can do something. But if you're a professional musician, you go, yeah, okay, that's fine. Alan is a good musician. I'm loath to say it, but he really he does so many
You've
things.
heard me play viola.
So, well, yeah. I mean, there's so many jokes. He's a violist and a tenor. How much time have we got in this afternoon? But no, he plays jazz, he plays guitar, he plays piano well, he's a good tenor, even though he talks down here all the time. And we're about the same age, and we're both, nephews of Mel's. So, this quarter century has been enriched by knowing Alan, and now, of course, Kimmy, and I know his kids a little bit, and he knows my kids, and even though we live 1,000 miles apart, it's been pretty special. And yeah, I do respect his craft and his ideas, and it's hard for me to say. As I said yesterday, you heard about the Norwegian who loved his wife so much he almost told her. So, I'm staring at my shoes now going, yeah, Alan is not bad. But yeah, I'm in all truth, I'm honored to be here and to be the first person to work with Consort in the 25 years since Bob and Alan and all of you formed this. And I called my wife yesterday and told her what a fine day we had, how responsive everyone was, how much work we got done, how the work was at a really high level. And this is going to sound a little bit like a left-handed compliment, but if I didn't think so, I'd find something else to say. But bottom line is I'm pretty serious about music, and you do music pretty well. And that is a testament, I think, to Bob. And despite a quarter century of Alan's tutelage, you have survived and thrived. Yeah.
Well, I thought I'd ask you some questions about your process for composing and repertoire and stuff. So, I wanted to ask both of you what criteria you use for choosing repertoire.
Oh, that's different than composing. You
But
mean,
that'll be the second part. This is
Okay.
this is for for conducting.
As a conductor, what do I look for when we're going to choose music?
Yeah.
Well, Alan and I came up with this program together, and of course, there's such a wealth of choral music. I only half jokingly say if you play bassoon, there are about 30 pieces. But if you are talking about choral music, you have to make some kind of a delineation, or you wouldn't know how to pick. And the idea of, well, I'm going to pick things I like. Well, even that's too much. So the idea of music about music was important, and then even within that context, there were so many fine choices. And then the fact that Consort typically has an orchestra, and then we were going to divide the program and how we would get each other off and on stage, and have a little repartee and so forth. And we actually, I think it was the 5th draft that we settled on ultimately. So we really did spend a fair amount of time going back and forth, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be wonderful. But one of my things that I used to say a lot to my students, there was a quote from Stravinsky. Somebody said, well, he said to somebody, if somebody asks me to write music, I have no ideas. But if you say 2 clarinets, then I start to get some thoughts. So in other words, the more you narrow it down and define it, the more you can, so music about music with an orchestra that can fit in that space with 48 voices, then, and dividing the program in half started to give some specificity that we could work with.
I can ask another question.
Yeah, he said everything I
Oh,
could
okay.
possibly think of.
Okay.
You have more questions?
Yeah, so it's up to you.
Well, I'm gonna add a little bit more.
Please do.
Correct the record.
Yeah. Because that's not the way you do it at all. No, it is interesting to do a program with a colleague. Is different than when you put one together. I will say that for all the 25 years with Bob and I would come up with a list of pieces that I wanted to do that I thought would be a great program, more than we could possibly have done at the time. And Bob would look at the list, and really the cool thing was Bob would go through that and say, well, actually they just sang this in Marin last week. Oh, okay, so that's out. And cut it down to, and he'd look at the timing and some of the things that are like that. I do now with the different chorales I do have to do all that, a lot of it alone. I don't have a team to work with as I did. And I loved working with Bob on that, because Bob and I worked well together, and I think those programs came together well, and so that's just a tribute to Bob and all those years together. And I have to say, working with Brad was much more difficult. No, the fun part with Brad, of course, we know so much repertoire. There's more than you can possibly do in a lifetime. I made a list at one point of all the pieces I hope to do, and it was like, okay, I need to live 200 years to get through this. It's not going to happen. But we have a lot of great pieces on this program, and that was fun. It's great to be able to pick a theme. I think that's new, because Bob and I didn't pick a theme. We just picked eras. There was a couple times we picked themes, I think.
Some themes.
But not always. Sometimes it was just a potpourri of pieces that we thought would make a lot of fun to do. But going through and picking repertoire, I'm going to say is a process that goes on all the time. Right?
Never finished.
It is never finished, and I am looking all the time for pieces. And some of you have even sent me pieces. I have a spot where I put those. Oh, there's some pieces that when it comes time to make decisions, make sure I have those. Because you hear pieces and you go, this is a great piece, you ought to consider this one. And I may not know that composer. Even though you've been doing this a long time, every once in a while it's like, how did I miss this guy? This guy's all over the place and I never heard this piece, and it's great. Okay, that's enough.
That's called a trash can, right, Alan?
What's that?
Where you put a trash can? Is that
That's what I was thinking in front
That's
of
right.
me, yeah.
Well, if it comes from you, Dave, that's...
Thank you.
Well, I have a few more questions.
Dump your mouth.
With being a choral conductor, sort of a combination of, what do you think it takes to be a good choral conductor? And what are the most challenging parts, and what are the most rewarding parts?
I better take this one.
You
just wrote a book.
I just wrote a book about
Did anybody
it.
read
We've been
it?
over this. Well, actually one of the jokes that choir directors make is, without you, I'm just a guy waving my arms. It's you who make the music. And so there's a huge psychological part to it. When we say, let's all do this thing next together. It's really, I want you to do this. But it has to be expressed in a way that is sort of a Pied Piper kind of thing. Let's say, okay, in other words, somebody's got to decide there's X amount of time, we've got this much music to get done, and what are we going to do, and what is triage, and what, we just want the patient to live, at a certain point. And so somebody, is always in the back going, measure 62 on B3 and we still didn't do that. You go, yeah, but that's it. We'll do a nose job on the patient after we stem the bleeding from the compound fracture over here. And so that's part of our job, is to just decide the running on a really quick basis. Something happens in real time and we go, if I wait at all too long, I'm going to lose everybody. So I have to decide this next thing. And sometimes you don't decide exactly the right thing, but you know, as time goes on, you get a little faster at it, and you just keep people singing, keep people make it light. I do also believe that. I mean, I sort of tell jokes on purpose, partly because, and this is in my book, if I'll give you a copy, is that I have a saying that I used to tell my grad students, is that everybody gets some things for free, and the rest you have to work on. And you have to figure out what things you get for free. And things I get for free, being tall and gray-haired and deep-voiced, is I don't have much problem with discipline. But what I need is for people to trust me to go on this emotional journey together. And if you look differently, if you were younger than me, or, you know, well, a lot of people are younger than me now, or I don't know what, you know, a variety of things. Like Alice Parker, Alan and I both know this legendary figure in American choral music. She looks like my great aunt, Annie. You know, but she's an old Yankee who does not suffer fools gladly. You know, so the first look that you get at somebody, you make some decisions about who they are, whether that be right or not. You go to the mall and you watch people go by, and there's somebody in a walker, and there's a big black man with muscles, and there's an old lady, and there's a well-dressed businessman, and so we'll make all these visceral decisions. And so both Alan and I, you react in a way, not only because you know us, but also kind of how we look and what our affect is. And then we have to do the rest of that to make a successful rehearsal. Now I'm going down a pretty deep rabbit hole.
Is your
here.
book this long?
Yeah, it's pretty long. Long story come to an end. You're saying, really what I'm doing is conducting these people in this moment, in this room right now. And that's what's so fascinating about it too. Especially if you're an extrovert, you just could go, well, I could go practice all by myself in a practice room, but I like making music with people. Okay.
Okay, forget everything you
What was the
heard.
question?
Not at all. I'll go a different direction because I agree so much with the approach that he does. And I love being in rehearsals with Brad because there's plenty to learn. And I like the way he does it. One of the things I think is important, it's the way you respect the singers, the people, or your orchestra for that matter, all of them. You respect them, and you show that right away by the way you manage time. And in managing time, that's when people know they're respected. And what's achieved during that time that you have with them. They said, okay, I'm going to give you 3 hours of your rehearsal or whatever. And during every one of those rehearsals, it is important that what is achieved during that time, they can walk away and feeling like greater things have been fulfilled. They already love music. We know that. They're there because they love music. They had an experience somewhere, you know, and so they know that singing can be a beautiful experience, but they want to learn more. And of course, with the artistry of music, you have poetry. Great poetry. I loved your reading of the Shakespeare yesterday, which was bringing the text into the music. Of one of our jobs all the time is bringing why did the composer do this to that text? Help us understand that so that when we sing it, the audience is going to get that in one hearing, that they have to have an experience where they understood it, and every singer therefore has to understand that. So all of that, the conducting experience. This goes to your question of why is this such a great job? I mean, there is so much you get to do. It's a wealth of experience and preparation. I mean, the preparation time really is the key. Analyzing the scores harmonically, you have to do that, the text and all that, and then you come and you have this certain amount of time to share all that with these singers, and they're excited.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, you're done now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think Brad hired them. Sorry.
Pretty
Yeah.
Okay, too excited over here, sorry.
Wonderful. Well, let me ask you both a little bit about composing, because you're both composers. What inspires you to write a composition, and how do you go about finding a text?
Money and deadlines, don't you
Is
think?
that anything you want to talk
Let
about?
it get booked.
Yeah, sure. In all sincerity, I think if it's a fine text, well, if you were to commission me to write a piece, I wouldn't agree to a text that I didn't think I could have anything to say about. And you might want to hire Alan then in that case. Actually, Alan has got some pretty good licks in today, I have to admit. So I'm just trying to keep up. But I feel like if it's a truly great poem, then to Alan's earlier point, say about the Shakespeare of Vaughan Williams, is to say, well, in what fashion could I do anything that would help people understand this better on first hearing? In other words, if the sonorities or the musical expression somehow enhanced it rather than. So what I think of what I'm doing is like, here's this great picture by Degas, and then what kind of frame needs to go around it so that you know, if it's a picture by Degas, you don't frame it like it's a picture by, you know, a portrait of John Wayne, you know, it's not all kind of rustic and wooden around that. You have to choose the materials that will best suit the poetry, and that can be fun. And you know, I mean, as years go by too, you also say, gosh, I wish I was a better frame maker, but it's fun to keep trying. You wish I was a better frame maker.
Yeah. Well, I've performed plenty of Brad's pieces, and you know, I actually a wonderful writer. I like his the expression, like the harmonies, the sense. You can tell this guy knows what he's working with. So I really enjoyed. Done the Requiem. In fact, we had Brad out to introduce that. That's always a pleasure. Lots of great pieces in just the writing. And I know that because of we share that experience of what it's like to see a text and find a way that we feel an expression goes. And there is a vocabulary that is your own. I mentioned to the chorale yesterday when we did Sanford Dole's piece, because our theme with Saint Cecilia as the patron saint of music is kind of how we put this program together. And so we have numerous pieces that use the text. And Brad has one, and Sanford is a living composer that sings in our group. He has one. And then we have go back to Purcell, and Handel. We have a number of composers through the ages that are able to see how they each approach this with different understandings, too, of what that text meant based on the time that they were living. It really changes. I find all that fascinating. That, to me, I hope, I know the singers, I can tell by your nods that the singers do, too. That's interesting just to see that approach. And they're all valid. They're so different, and yet they all stand quite strong and valid in how the approach that they took to that. So I'll say, as a composer, I'm also with you on the text. I will write, if someone commissions a text from Scripture, then I often put together what I call a choral poem, because they don't always, you know, metrically lie out right, especially if they pick a Scripture verse and it just doesn't, you can't sing that right.
Just prose.
Yeah, unless you use Brad's changing meters constantly. But I find I write a choral poem and I submit that back to the commissioning group, and I have done this all my life. And I'll say, is this the poem? In between in that poem is also things that have to make the poem and it really carries a lot of the theology that I have. That is going to be, they may not see that, I don't go expressing it, but I need to make sure that it all works for their situation and speaks truth for me. And so I'm like you, I can't write music to something I don't believe in. It doesn't work, and that's important.
I'm not sure, it's quarter to, okay, so we make it, we only have till 3 o'clock, oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna ask a few more questions and then we wanna open it up for people to ask questions. So, let's see.
Did Brad talk too long? Because his book was a little...
Like Charlie Brown's teacher.
Well, I have a list, I guess I'm just gonna go to a couple. So, Brad did tell me in an email to ask about to ask him about his inside knowledge about Alan's deep-seated love of ponies. So
Okay, I gotta do this.
Even I'm eager.
So there were, 5-6 years in the 90s when we shared a room at Lake Tahoe. And, you know, I'm not telling any secrets here to say all the ladies at Lake Tahoe loved Alan. And this is when he was, you know, Anne was no longer a part of the picture and Kimmy was not yet on board. And I'd come down to breakfast and they'd say, "How is Alan?" And I'd say, "Well, you know, we talked late into the evening, and just as he was dozing off, he would say, you know, as a boy, I wish I had a pony." And all the old ladies go, "Oh." And then they'd say later in the clinic, they go, "I understand you really wanted a pony." And I would go, "Well, I don't remember why. I mean, I like ponies. Who doesn't like ponies?" This was just ongoing for years. So periodically, I would just send them a pony in the mail. We think it's funny. Anyway.
Alan, I was wondering if there was any particular story or something you would like to share about Brad. I know you didn't get prepared for this. Any particular? I know particular story.
He
said
said
25 years.
I can't think of one I could share publicly.
There was that one time in San Francisco.
I do have one. I like always one I think is. I do. Yeah,
Okay.
It's just the one experience I rarely can share out loud, but now is the chance. I remember that Brad was a featured clinician at a Lutheran conference, and I was there just for a day to do a one thing, whatever it was. And so I sent a note and I saw that he's on this. Hey, you're doing the same conference, so can I come? Can I just room with you for that day? And he said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So that all sounded great. So I show up at the conference, and he says, "Oh yeah, we've got it all set, but there is some bad news." What's that? I said, "Well, I just have it's a king size bed. That's what we got." I said, "Oh, so we'll be sleeping together. Is that what you're saying?"
I don't remember any of this.
Man, I remember in the morning going, "Hi, honey."
Like I said, I thought this was about when Alan met Bradley.
This is a family.
Well, I'm just going to ask one last question for the both of you, and then you can do a Q&A. And this is sort of more of a deep question, but it's mostly like, why did you choose to devote your life to music? What does music mean to you? Why is it so important?
That's an easy
No, it'll take a minute.
You take that one, Brad.
Well, I devoted myself to music to try and fix everything Alan had been through.
There you go.
It's a lovely way to make a living. I really do feel blessed, and I get to travel around. My mother-in-law is a very practical Midwestern lady, and I said I was coming out here, and she goes, "Do you still like to travel?" And I said, "Well, traveling isn't that fun anymore, but I like making music on the other end." And when I was in graduate school, I remember asking my teacher, "Do you think I have what it takes to be a professional musician?" And I was really fishing for compliments. And she looked at me right in the eye and said, "I don't know, can you imagine doing anything else?" And in retrospect, no, this was, and I'm blessed that it worked out.
You summed it up perfectly, because I thought there really is nothing else I ever wanted to do, or I don't think I could do. Every time something happens, we need call a plumber. I was like, okay, I better write another piece.
Well, have, I think I'm just gonna leave. Let people ask questions and you two can answer and.
Lucy has a question.
All right.
Well, this is a very profound one because of something Alan just said, that he doesn't write any music unless he can believe in it. And it means something to you. And after I joined Consort, there's a piece that we sang that I was really struck by. The group had sung it before, but I'd never seen it. So I wonder what it was you so believed in when you wrote, "Do you care at all for me?"
Well done, Lucy.
Did you have a plumbing emergency?
That has turned out to be a bigger piece than I ever expected it to be. But it's an anonymous text, those who don't know it, and it's uses vegetables and fruits to describe a beautiful love relationship. And I am fortunate, married to two beautiful ladies. And Annie remains a very dear, dear friend, and that was a book she gave me that had a bunch of love poems in it. I read that. It's by an anonymous author. I couldn't believe it. No one ever said it to music. I don't think anybody else has. I don't understand it, because I thought it was a fabulous poem. And now it's been used all over the place, and I have some wonderful stories about that, but I don't need to share that side of it.
Oh, it was fun. It was really fun.
Thank you. That's a lovely question.
I have two questions, but you pick which you want because you might not want to answer either. But one is, I heard a choral director say once that he dreamt that he would wave his arm. He was waving his arms trying to conduct, and nobody sang. So I guess one of the questions would be, if you want to say, what if a dream that you have, or do you dream about music? I assume you do, and if so, what? And then the other choice you have is, I saw Pavarotti, the movie, recently, and he talks about how he was terrified every time he went on stage. And I was just wondering if you get nervous, and if so, what do you do about it? Maybe you don't get nervous.
You want to talk first?
No. Well, yeah, I think every time Alan takes the stage.
Alvin takes your first break.
No, I still do get nervous. I don't get terribly nervous, but I'm still pretty keyed up. And I've said, and all my grad students and choirs know this, that little things, I don't like getting my choir often on stage. I'm worried that the players all brought their music. I'm not terribly nervous about music making per se, because that feels right to that earlier question about, what I might have done for a living. The dreams, yeah, there are dreams sometimes when you get up there and you feel like it usually has to do with preparation. And I'll say this in all honesty: when I was younger, I felt pretty talented, and I thought, well, I've worked on this more than anybody else. That should be fine. But the older I get, the more work I do going into it, and the less I have those dreams.
Excuse me, Brad. Betsy asked the question as far as you do get nervous. You said, but you didn't follow up with how you handle that. How do you get through that?
What helps you?
Oh.
The nervousness you might have. How do you deal with that? Is there something? I think that.
Yeah, no, that's a
she was
good
asking.
question.
How do you prepare for that?
If I've done enough preparation, and now being a professional musician for 35 plus years, I feel just a little bit like focused. I remember, this is for a moment to be serious. I used to sing a lot, and I remember singing. I was in the middle of singing Messiah, and I've sung the bass solos in Messiah 1,000 times. And I just felt like I hadn't done enough preparation, and I almost stopped in the middle thinking, I am shoveling such horseshit to these people, I should just stop singing. And I heard a recording, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But it is the constant feeling that I read Gertrude B. Stein once say, you never have to criticize artists. They're hard enough on themselves. And you know, when you're younger, you kind of hide that with bravado, and when you get older, you just go, yeah, I just got to do the work.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I should, but I would love for Consort to know, and I bet Bob knows this from always staying with him. I am, especially the very first rehearsal with Consort, that's when I'm nervous. It's not the concert. It's the first rehearsals, and as I prepare, it's like, I want to, have I prepared enough? You never can prepare enough.
No, you can't.
And I have it all written, I have it minute by minute, and do I know everything, the piece enough? And I don't want to ever lose that. I don't, and now I can say, doing it this long,
Well, Brad, I've never sung with you, but I get, you know, Alan's grudging endorsement. This is a good question for you too, but let's start with Alan. Singing for you, the experience that I have is that you have this quality that I call cheerful ruthlessness. And I think it involves respect. I feel like we're there to work, and we're fucking up, and you're gonna suggest some other choices, and that's how the work looks to me. But I do get this. I never feel scolded. You know, I always just feel honored to be involved in the process, and we just make incredible strides in a very short time. But I want to know whether you're faking it. I mean, how does it look from your side? Are you swallowing your gum and, you know, biting your lip and all that, or is it really? It seems very genuine. I just want to know whether you're just a good actor or how it feels to actually do
I
it.
took the microphone, and I know you asked this to Alan, but in all sincerity, one of the reasons Alan and I get along so well is, well, I think, we haven't ever spoken about this, but that
we slept together for God's sake.
But the pony came between us. And one of the things I really respect about Alan, and I feel like I try and do this myself, is that we have such faith and trust in how smart you are, and that you can rise to these, like, if I can just find a better way to explain this, you would get it. So the fault lies with my explanation. And there are a lot of choral conductors, and you probably sang under them, who said, you know, I'm a really good musician and you aren't, and until such time as you get up to this point, you know, you will be a lesser person to me. And I think Alan is really good at saying, you know, this is excellent music of the highest sort, and you are smart people, and you're talented, and let's do this together. And that's the way I feel about it too. So, okay, there's a compliment for you.
So he lies really well, huh?
Yeah, he lies.
Now you get this $5 back. That was really good. You know, but it is what he said is the right thing. It's not a matter at all of faking it, as to just pull from your text. But indeed, that music making, the job that we have to do, as soon as we get a choir, it could be a choir festival that I'm in for one day, or it can be a group I get to work with continually and I'm going to build on. And you know, the job is to make that music become so significant and so powerful that in fact what it's going to do is move an audience. I'd like it to move the singers, because if they're not moved, it's not going to happen. They're not going to move the audience. But that's where you're going. That's what you want to achieve. And so, and you know the music is good enough, and you've been doing this long enough that hopefully you have I mean, I never find myself searching for what am I going to say to make sure there's an answer. I hear a problem, and what am I going to do? There's so many answers there. And I will say, going to their workshops, watching other conductors work, even Brad, you pull that, and that goes into the shop.
So I say, yeah, I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
good one.
Well, I think we have to close, it's 3 o'clock. I just want to say, the first thing I want to say is thank you to the board for putting this together, especially Ruth Ann for we almost lost Consort, but we didn't, thanks to you. So thank you so much. And then, of course, Alan and Brad, what can I say? It was such a delight, Brad, yesterday for the singers to experience you. Yeah, Alan's a tough act to follow. You were both fantastic, and I know we all loved it and learned so much. So thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for today and sharing your story with us. Really.